Thank you, Joni. And will he or won't he testify? That is the question that remains as the Jussie Smollett trial resumes this morning, with the defense calling even more witnesses. The judge told jurors last week he expects they can begin deliberations no later than tomorrow. Joining us to discuss the case is legal analyst Karen Conti. Karen, good morning to you. Good to see you. There's no doubt here that the testimony by the brothers against Smollett, accusing him of setting up that attack, was damaging. But how has the defense fared so far, do you think?
Well, when the prosecution has his case on the stand, you should really look and say, wow, that's a really strong case. And when the defense puts its case on the stand, you should think the opposite. So just because we have seen some strong evidence from the prosecution doesn't mean that holes can't be poked. And, I think this is the time for the defense to put on the evidence, and they're going to, make the claim that he had no motive to do this. This was not the kind of thing that he did. Why would he benefit from something like this? And it was just an outrageous prank that someone conjured up.
Okay, let's talk about one of the issues that the defense is trying to use. What do you make of the allegations that the Osendero brothers, they say, were homophobic and that they had animosity towards Smollett for that reason? How does this actually affect the case, and how does the fact that Jussie is gay play into all of this as the defense is using this?
Well, it's complicated because part of the hoax, supposedly, is that there were anti-gay allegations. There was a note that was written to the Empire production company, and so I think that it plays in that way that he's a victim because he was being targeted because he was gay. On the other hand, it could be that his position is that the Osendero brothers didn't like him because he was gay, and because in Nigeria, which is where they were originally from, that it was a crime to be homosexual, and so that this was something they did out of hate for him, and that was their motive to basically testify against him.
Okay, let's talk about what happened last week. This is very interesting. Some are calling it a jaw-dropping moment in the court last week between Smollett's attorney and the judge about whether the Osendero brothers' gay-bashing tweets are collateral evidence. Now, so Smollett's attorney says when she brought this up and asked for a mistrial, the judge lunged at her with outrage. She says it was frightening. The judge says he wasn't being threatening, but he was startled that the defense would ask for a mistrial based on this collateral characterization. What's this all about?
Well, all of this, to my knowledge, happened in chambers, so the jury didn't see any of it. The argument is that when Smollett's lawyers were trying to bring up these tweets, these homophobic tweets from the Osendero brothers, the judge was trying not to allow them in, saying this is collateral, meaning it's not really relevant and germane to what's happening in court. And then when the mistrial was asked for, the judge lunged. Now, whether the judge lunged or not, I don't know. No one knows because we weren't in chambers. But again, a mistrial based upon the judge's lunging, the jury didn't get to see it, so certainly that's not going to be granted.
Okay, so let's talk about the question, as I said at the top of this interview, is Smollett testifying? You said last week that he absolutely should testify. Tell me again why, and if he was your client, what would you do to prepare him?
He absolutely has to testify. We all know that you can refuse to take the stand, and the jury is instructed that nothing can be interpreted from the failure to testify. But we all know as a practical matter that jurors want to hear what the defendant has to say. And listen, we heard the entire prosecution case. This is the whole story of the hoax. The brothers put it all together. And if Smollett doesn't testify, the jury won't get another alternative story. And the alternative story has to be that the Osendero brothers, made this whole thing up to save their own hide. In fact, remember, they were arrested immediately. So even the police apparently had reasonable doubt. He has to testify. He doesn't have a criminal record. He's an actor. He's poised. He's going to be articulate. I would have sat with him for hours and grilled him, not only on the questions that I would ask him as his lawyer, but the questions that Dan Webb, the prosecution, is going to ask him, poking holes, trying to impugn his credibility, and just practicing to the point where Jussie Smollett will feel comfortable. And one more thing, Sylvia, we know that Kyle Rittenhouse's testimony was probably very important for that jury. So when you see that kind of testimony be relevant, you can extrapolate that into this case.
And I'm sure Dan Webb is ready for that as well. He is preparing and hoping that Smollett will testify. If for some reason he doesn't, can the jurors actually honor the instructions that they usually get not to hold it against a defendant if they decide not to testify? And what kind of difference would this make in a decision?
Well, they're instructed that they cannot draw any conclusions from the fact that the defendant didn't testify. But it's a practical matter. When you're sitting there and you're taking time off of work and from your family during the holidays, you're going to be angry that this defendant who you're there to try to do justice for is not taking the stand and owning up to what he did. I mean, and also Dan Webb is a very likable guy. He's from a small town. He's very folksy. We're going to want to see Jussie Smollett. We're going to want to like him. We're going to want to know what his background is, his motivations. And I don't think that this jury is going to get a full picture unless he testifies.
Okay, well, today could be the day. Karen Conti, our legal analyst, thanks so much for joining me this morning. We will watch and see what happens. Appreciate your time.